Yesterday I ran. Today I am a warrior. Chapter 3. God has the final say-so. I believe in the power of prayer. Though the doctors count you out, God has the final say-so. Over the years and some struggling times, I had to deal with heart conditions. After suffering from several silent heart attacks, collapsed arteries, and blockages, they sent me home with a bottle of nitroglycerin and no hope. But God. We press. We always press towards the Father. I am pressing right now with something different. Every day. My eldest son died from a bout of pneumonia. After struggling for a month with increasing organ failures, his heart just stopped beating. My daughter and I sat there in unbelief, in the hospital room with the medical staff trying so very hard to bring him back. "Come back, Nathaniel. Come back," they yelled. "We love you, son. Come back." Then his heart would come back. Everyone would sigh and smile and be thankful. Even the doctors and resuscitation crew sighed with belief. But moments later, his heartbeat would start to drop again. They breathed, pumped, shot bicarbonates, and gave him everything they could. He returned 13 times or more, only to finally crash. We are so sorry he is gone. We watched silently. We couldn't even cry, and they watched us as well. My daughter Nina became my hero that day. She was the champion of champions. She fought for her brother like she was a gladiator in the halls of despair. Just 11 months before, my husband Kent had died silently in the hospital bed next to where I sat. Someone had turned off the alarms, I guess. I sat watching television and talking with my son Nathaniel, who named his stepfather and best buddy Papa Kent. We were chatting over FaceTime when a male nurse walked in to me and leaned forward. He said, "Do you want epinephrine?" I said, "What? I don't understand you. What are you asking me?" He said it again. I looked at Nate's face and said, "Do you know what he is asking me?" Well, because of the lateness of the hour, I thought he was offering me some tea before bedtime. They often did that when you stayed at the hospital, offered tea or coffee. When I looked to the left, I saw a group of people peeping through my door, which I thought was strange. I told Nate, "Let me see what's going on. I'll call you back." As I turned around and got up, I looked at Kent's monitor screen, and he had flatlined. I screamed, "Hey! What is going on?" Finally, a lady said, "Do you want epinephrine? Do you want resuscitate?" Speaking in broken English, I was screaming by then, "Resuscitate him! What's wrong with you people? I thought thought he was offering me some tea, and you were asking me if I wanted to resuscitate him? He does not have a do not resuscitate in his file. They began the performance, I would call it. All of the folk out in the hallway poured into the room and started pumping. Every line on the screen was flat. No sign of any life anywhere. I was livid. But I stood there and watched them practice, is what it felt like. Finally, a doctor eased over to me and said, "Are you all right? Do you know what is going on?" I said, "Yes, his heart stopped." "How long are they going to do that?" He said, "Until you tell them to stop." I said, "Me? Is he dead?" The doctor said, "It looks like it." I said, "Is he dead?" Finally he said, "Yes." I said, "Then stop." He yelled, "Stop! Mark the time, 12:01 a.m. Everyone fled that room like roaches when you turn on a light. Some offered to say, "I'm sorry for your loss," and left, while others said nothing. I just stood there looking at my sweet husband's body. He was gone. Finally, I sat down. The doctor that marked his death came and sat next to me and said he was sorry. "Do you need a hug?" I turned and looked in his face and said, "Do you?" He said, "Yes," and reached and hugged me. "Stay as long as you like. Do you need me to call someone for you?" I said, "There is no one. He is all I have here. I'll just sit for a while." Eventually I got up and walked over to take a long look at my husband. I felt the Lord say, "It's time to go. Pack your stuff." I had been there with him every day. He never wanted me to leave, so I didn't. For that, I am very happy. After an emergency ankle surgery for a blood clot, my husband lay dead. His toes had been ice cold, and we kept telling the doctors that something was wrong with his foot. Now, as I took my last look, I pulled back the covers to see his foot, and it was full of blood. His feet were burning hot. I said, "I guess we got your feet warm and lost everything else." Someone had come into the room and changed the direction of the overhead monitor screen while I had eased out to the restroom earlier. They had also turned off the alarms. I had been sleeping in that hospital long enough to have heard many code blues. Kent never got his code blue. I don't know what actually happened to Kent, but that is a whole other story. One day, these people will pay for their wrongdoing. If not on earth, then before the Lord. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Until we meet again, I look forward to the day in heaven I see you again. God gave me a gift I will never forget. Rest on. I bet you love your new legs and feet, walking on the streets of gold. Kent was in so much pain. I saw your tears as you slipped away from me. As I stood there weeping, God said to me, "Job well done. It's time to go." I rolled my luggage out past everyone, still standing and sitting around. They were all staring, and I waved, "Bye." And God shall wipe away all tears. My 2 children and his 2 children did not take the news of Papa's passing very well. It was so unexpected that it left us in great grief. Nathaniel, my son, was already battling a condition in his lower body with fluid retention and had just gone through some extreme battles himself. I noticed that he worried about me a whole lot. And speaking with him, he was more broken-hearted than I had ever seen. I actually had started watching him a lot closer. My plans were to spend more time with him at his home, but ministry had me elsewhere. I was in full-time ministry and kept working and didn't stop taking care of others, even when someone should have been taking care of me. When Nathaniel died, I felt a part of my heart go with him. I can't explain it, but something inside of me was gone. I could feel its absence. Several months afterwards, I was under a massive physical attack from the enemy. Not only was I suffering from grief, but an illness. I thought it was my heart failing again, because it was rough. It wasn't even my heart. I was scheduled for 2 urgent surgeries. Apparently, my thyroid gland had attacked my body and my gallbladder wall had stopped functioning. They wanted to remove both organs immediately. On a Wednesday morning, the surgeons wanted to operate by Friday. Before they could operate on me, however, they had to have a cardiac clear before surgery. My cardiologist, however, said, "No, the surgeries would kill you in the condition you are in." The test results showed by then that my pituitary gland in my brain had ceased to function correctly. They diagnosed it as Graves' disease. My gland was in the negative state. The pituitary gland. This is a small pea-sized gland that plays a major role in regulating vital body functions and general well-being. It is referred to as the body's master gland because it controls the activity of most other hormone-secreting glands. Here now, I have a host of new doctors giving me tests and poking and prodding. My body has always hated releasing its blood. They call it a hard stick. I call it smart. A new female doctor sent me a message. She was an endocrinologist, and she had been monitoring my condition from a distance through my primary doctor. Unbeknownst to me all along, she had been instructing them how to treat me. Now, she wanted to meet me herself. As I stepped into my appointment, I had a peaceful feeling pour over me. I was praying hard because my body was out of control with shaking, weight loss, sweats, palpitation, but most of all, extreme headaches. I had never been a person with headaches, so this was unbearable. It felt like a mouse was running around in my head, banging. They weren't just regular headaches, though. I had begun to lose my eyesight. My left eye was declared legally blind, and my eye sockets were protruding. The doctor walked in and sat in front of me. I had no idea what would be next. She said, "I have been praying for you." Immediately, my eyes filled with tears. I gasped. I listened as she said, "I pray for all of my Graves patients so that God would show me how to treat them. It can be a very difficult disease to treat." I was still stuck at, "I prayed for you." Finally, I said what I was thinking. "Thank you for praying for me. I am amazed. Are you a Christian believer?" She said she was indeed. She smiled and began to describe my options and all about the condition. Because every Graves patient is different, she said, she had found. She asked, had I been under a lot of stress lately? So I proceeded to tell her of the prior year's passing of my husband Kent, and that my son Nathaniel, in less than a year from that, had also passed a few months ago. I did all I could to refrain from weeping, but tears began to flow. I apologized because I was so tired of crying. "Don't be afraid. With the help of the Lord, we will get through this season," she said. I left there knowing that God had put my life into the hands of a skilled physician. I burst into song as I left the building. From my heart poured Isaiah 52:7. How lovely on the mountains are the feet of them who bring good news, announcing peace, proclaiming news of happiness. Our God reigns. Our God reigns. I sang and sang until I fell asleep at home. For months afterwards, I was in severe pain, not knowing what else to do. I just got back into the bed, calling on the Lord. I had no choice but to ride out this storm. I don't believe in quitting. I have stuff to do. I didn't want to, but I took the medicines they prescribed and actually started feeling better. Oh, taste and see that the Lord, He is good. It is He, God, who gives us health to our bones and breath to our lungs. We stand. Forever we stand on the Word of God. I'm standing for my complete and continued healing as well. I hated the very name Graves' disease. Every time I thought of the word grave, I knew the enemy was trying to put me in a grave if I accepted it. It was so obvious that he intended for me to bow down and die out of sorrow of heart. But that was not God's will. I began to rebuke the very name. I'm not going to my grave. The devil is a liar. Repeatedly, over and over, I rebuked the devourer. I rebuked the thief. I rebuked he who would kill. I rebuked the one who would come to steal my soul. You have no right to me. I am the temple of the living God, and you have no place in me. Weeks of suffering had passed when I stumbled into a church service, almost at my wits' end, it felt. No one knew me there. The word of the Lord was great. And at the end of the service, the pastor offered up to pray for folk. The congregation was all walking the other direction towards the exit. I ran down to the altar. I wasn't embarrassed. I was desperate. Please pray for me. Oh my, did they pray? When I opened my eyes, crying and rejoicing, the whole altar around me was full of people getting prayer. I don't care what people think or feel. I ran down to the elders. I'm just resting and healing right now. This is my instructions. I've been in some fierce battles, and nothing but God has brought me out. He has the last say so. Yesterday I ran. Today I am a warrior. God has the final say so. Music by Daryl Udell Jr.